had been to this meeting the last few weeks, you would have heard me give a speech called Add Your Seasoning. You heard it. You were here, Les, you heard it, you heard it. Michelle, a lot of you have heard that speech. And the reason I've been giving it for a number of times is because it was my competition speech for the division competition. Remember, we are club, then there's the area, and the division. And this past Saturday, the division contest was held. I competed in that contest, and something very surprising happened that when you hear about it, you might find useful if you ever compete or when you actually have to give a public speech like you're going to give. The division was held somewhere on the south side, way on the south side, in a community college building. It's the South Division. I would say there was probably about 100 people, so for those of you like you who are going to have to give a big speech, 100 people is a good-sized room. The room was full. At the beginning of the speech, you draw numbers to see what number you're going to speak. I drew number 6 out of 6 speakers. That is actually the best position to be in a competition, because the judges are hesitant to give very good ratings to the first speakers for fear that the later speaker will be even better and they can't give a better value. So if you give 10, for example, to the first speaker, what do you do for the one who's even better later? So there's a tendency for judges to hold back to the early speakers and give better marks to the later speakers. Also, there's a rule in speaking that goes something like the last speaker is remembered more, or the last thing you say is remembered. How do you know that? There's a saying about that, roughly. The last impression is the strongest impression. So the last speaker also leaves the strongest impression on the judges. Furthermore, because of the way the speeches are held, you as a speaker can listen to the other speakers before you. So I got to sit there and listen to the 5 speakers before me. The first speaker, very well-known speaker named Barry, got up there, tall man, large size, big booming voice, talked about his experience as a gemologist. And he started his speech out something like, I studied gems. And it was a long speech about gems and the value of gems and knowing the value about him and him being like a gem. It was an okay speech. The second speaker, I don't even remember the second speaker. And I don't remember the third speaker. The fourth speaker was a young man speaking about baseball. He had a baseball cap, and he was acting out all the roles of a baseball player and how he learned some lifelong lesson about baseball. This speaker was she said she was 4 feet tall, and she looked 4 feet tall, but she also was 4 feet wide. So this was an interesting person to be looking at and listening to. And that small woman could project her voice across the wall and room and have it bounce back and forth and back and forth. You know, you've ever heard a person like that? Small person with a big voice? And she had a great presence and talked about learning from her father that the meaning of life was ready, aim, shoot. Something like that. And then I gave my speech. Now, I had noticed before I gave my speech that none of the speakers were using the well-known skills that we talk about here. For example, I opened my speech with a question to engage the audience. None of the other speakers used the question. They just started it with I did this and I did that and I. Okay. I also knew that in my speech, which if you hadn't heard, it was about my son opening a restaurant in New York City and what went into building a restaurant. In my story, I used a lot of dialogue. I said to my son, Stefan, where are you going to build this place? Oh, I found the right place, Dad. A lot of back and forth. And dialogue makes speeches rich and real to the audience. The other 5 speakers were doing narration, just describing things. So, very interesting. I also had a takeaway phrase, if you remember, add your seasoning, the letter C, for, as Z knows, and I hope I remember, commitment, concentration, and completion. So I was confident when I gave my speech. I had the good elements of a speech. The audience was laughing. They were into it. Finally, it was done, and it was time for the judging. Now, I felt good about it, but you never know with competitions how the judging is going to go. They announced the third place winner. It was a man, Charles, who had given an interesting speech. He had a nice projection. The second place winner was me. Okay, I felt disappointed, but I felt that the winner was going to be that short, stocky woman, because she had energy, she projected passion. Remember you were talking about passion? She had that passion, she had the energy. And then they said, and the first place winner is Barry, the tall man who went first. And as soon as they announced Barry, a whole bunch of people in the back room went, yay, yay, yeah, oh yeah, 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 cheering. And then I remembered that during his talk, they were cheering too. Every joke he made, they laughed extra loud, and they clapped, and they made noise. And that's when I realized what had happened. He had brought his fan club, and they had influenced the judging by the way they reacted. Because the judges, part of the judging is to gauge audience reaction, and you get scores for that. And he had influenced the judges by stacking the audience. Have you ever been in a situation? Oh, you know what I'm talking about. And that caught me by surprise. It really shocked me. So I learned something from it. Maybe you learned something from it. The next time I'm going to give a speech in competition, you're coming. All right, get ready and cheer. The alternative is I'm going to a different division next time where that Barry is not there with his cheering session. That was surprising, fascinating. You find it surprising to think that there would be a cheering session that would influence? It is a little shocking. So that was my experience. So I ended up coming in second. In the end, I came away feeling satisfied because, as Tim and I discussed, you give the best speech you could possibly give. If you feel you did your best and the rest is up to judges over which you have no control, all you can say is, I did what I had. I did what I came to do, and I'm happy with that. So that was the outcome of that. That Barry's now going to go on and present at the district competition. So if you want to hear him speak and cheer for him, go to the district on the 29th and the 30th. Mr. Toastmaster.